The cold wakes Frederick before dawn. Not the cold of a November morning, but the cold of a concrete floor that has been soaking up frost for 80 years. He feels it in his left hip first, the one the doctor said would need replacing if he lived long enough to qualify for Medicare. He is 77. He did not live long enough. Beside him, Constance breathes in shallow rhythms, her body curled into the shape of a question mark against his back. She is 74. Her hands, even in sleep, are curved as though holding a hymnal. 30 years of playing the organ for funerals did that to her fingers. The arthritis came slowly, then all at once. They are lying on a pew cushion they pulled from the second row. The first row was too close to the draft from the door. The third row had a broken slat that dug into Constance's spine. The second row, they discovered on the third night, was exactly the right distance from the furnace grate to catch the rising heat without burning. Frederick opens his eyes and looks at the ceiling. The stained glass window above the altar shows Christ as the Good Shepherd, carrying a lamb across his shoulders. The morning light, when it comes, will turn the lamb's wool golden and the shepherd's robe blue. Frederick has seen this window every morning for 11 days now. He has stopped seeing it as beautiful. He sees it as a reminder that shepherds carry lambs, not old men. He sits up slowly, testing each joint before committing weight to it. The floor is cold through his socks. He only has 3 pairs now. The other 4 are in a storage unit 30 miles away, along with Constance's sewing machine, his father's rocking chair, and everything else that didn't fit into 2 black trash bags. 2 bags, that was what they were allowed to take. Their son Michael had been very specific about this. The new pastor needs the parsonage by December 1st, he had said, not looking at them, looking at his phone instead. You can take 2 bags. I'll put the rest in storage. You can sort through it when you find a place. When you find a place. As though finding a place at 77, with no savings and a pension that evaporated when the denomination restructured, was simply a matter of looking in the right drawers. Frederick stands. The church is small, built in 1892 by farmers who needed a place to baptize their children and bury their dead. It seats 60 people on good Sundays. On bad Sundays, it seats 12. Frederick has preached here. He has baptized here. He has buried here. And now he sleeps here on a cushion from the second row, because there is nowhere else. He walks to the window and looks out at the graveyard. 37 headstones. Some of them he remembers placing. Mary Tilson, who died of cancer in 1998. Henry Graves, who had a heart attack while plowing in 2004. Eleanor Vance, who outlived 3 husbands and died at 93 with a smile on her face. Eleanor would have understood. She had been evicted from her own home by her grandson, who sold it to a developer. She had lived with Frederick and Constance for 6 months before they found her a room at the county home. People don't want to take care of their old, she had said, buttering her toast with the careful precision of someone who had learned to make things last. They want to forget they're going to get old themselves. Frederick had not understood then. He understands now. The parsonage was never theirs. He knew this. Every pastor knows this. The house belongs to the church, to the congregation, to the denomination. You are a caretaker, not an owner. You live in someone else's home and pretend it is yours. For 43 years, Frederick and Constance lived in that house. They raised 3 children there. They painted the kitchen themselves, chose the wallpaper in the bathroom, planted the rose bushes along the fence. Constance sewed curtains for every window. Frederick built bookshelves into the study wall. They marked the children's heights on the doorframe of the pantry, pencil lines rising year by year until they stopped rising and left home. When Frederick retired, the denomination gave him 6 weeks to vacate. Standard procedure, said the regional administrator, a man named Thompson who wore a Patagonia vest and drove a car that cost more than Frederick's first house. The new pastor needs to move in. You'll receive a small severance and will help with transition. The small severance was $1,800. The transition help was a pamphlet about senior housing options. The closest option was 80 miles away and had a waiting list of 3 years. Frederick had called each of his children. Sarah, the oldest, lived in Oregon with her husband and 2 children. Dad, I wish I could help, but we're maxed out on credit cards and the kids need braces and we're already late on the mortgage. She had cried. She meant it. She also could not help. David, the middle child, was a lawyer in Chicago. Dad, I can give you $300 a month, but you can't stay with us. We have a 2-bedroom condo and the kids are sharing a room and it's already a nightmare. He had not cried. He had calculated. $300 a month would not rent a parking space in Chicago. Michael, the youngest, was a real estate agent in the same town where Frederick had preached for 43 years. Michael had been the one to deliver the news, standing in the parsonage kitchen with his hands in his pockets, not quite meeting his father's eyes. Mom, Dad, you need to be out by November 30th. I've already got the storage unit reserved. 2 bags each. I'll help you pack. Michael had not offered them a room. Michael had a 4-bedroom house with a finished basement and a hot tub and a 3-car garage. Michael had not offered them a room. Constance had not cried. She had nodded once and walked into the kitchen to make tea. She had made tea the way she played the organ, with precision, with grace, with the knowledge that the only thing you can control in this life is how you hold your own hands. The cracked leather of Frederick's Bible is cold under his fingers. He has owned this Bible since his ordination in 1972. The cover is soft as cloth now, the corners rounded, the spine held together with duct tape and prayer. Inside, the pages are thin as onion skin, marked with his handwriting in the margins, underlined verses, dates of sermons, names of the dying he visited in hospitals. He opens it to Psalm 23. The page is worn nearly transparent at the edges. He has read this psalm at more funerals than he can count. He has read it to his own mother as she died. He has read it to Constance's father, who had been afraid of the dark and needed to hear about the valley. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Frederick closes the Bible. He shall not want. He wants so many things. He wants a warm bed. He wants a door that locks. He wants to not wake up with his hips screaming and his wife shivering beside him. He wants to not have to choose between buying food and buying the blood pressure medication that keeps his heart beating. He shall not want. The words feel like a promise he has broken, or a promise that has broken him. Constance stirs. She reaches for him without opening her eyes, her hand finding his arm, her fingers curling around his wrist. "Freddie," she says. It is not a question. It is a greeting. It is the sound she makes every morning to confirm that he is still there, still alive, still with her. "I'm here," he says. "Did you sleep?" "Some." "Liar." He smiles. She knows she always knows. 43 years of marriage and she can read him like sheet music. The sun's coming up, he says. "I'll make coffee." The coffee is instant, bought with the last of their cash. They have $180. After that, there is nothing. Frederick does not think about what happens after that. He thinks about the coffee, which is hot and bitter and real. He thinks about the crackers they have left, 8 of them, wrapped in a napkin in Constance's purse. He thinks about the can of soup they are saving for tonight. They eat breakfast in silence. The church is cold, but the sun is coming through the Good Shepherd window now, painting the floor in blue and gold. Constance eats her cracker in small bites, making it last. She hums while she eats. It is a habit Frederick has always loved, the way she fills silence with music, the way other people fill it with words. "What day is it?" she asks. "Tuesday." "November?" "Novads." It feels like November. It feels like November in the way that a closed fist feels like a hand. The cold is not the cold of January, which has settled into acceptance. The cold of November is the cold of betrayal, the cold of a door closing that you thought would stay open. The discovery happened on the 4th day. Frederick had been exploring the church, looking for anything useful: blankets, candles, food left behind. The church had been abandoned for 3 years, ever since the denomination merged the congregation with another church 12 miles away. The pews were still there, the altar, the pulpit, the organ that no one had played since Constance retired. In the basement, which was really just a crawl space under the sanctuary, Frederick had found a wooden box. It was small, perhaps 12 inches by 8, made of oak darkened by age. It was wedged between 2 floor joists, covered in dust, held in place by cobwebs and time. He had pulled it out with trembling hands. The lock was rusted shut, but the wood was old, and the hasp gave way with a single twist. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was a document. The document was a deed. It was dated April 14, 1901, the same day as the cornerstone ceremony for the church. It named the property, the land, the building, the graveyard as belonging to the original congregation members and their descendants in perpetuity. Frederick had read it 3 times before he understood. The church had been built on land donated by the Harrison family, who had stipulated in the deed that if the denomination ever abandoned the building, ownership would revert to the original congregation members. Frederick had been a member of the congregation. He had been baptized here in 1948. He had received his membership card in 1964, when he was 16 years old. He still had that card pressed between the pages of his Bible, kept because he did not throw things away. The deed meant something. He was not sure what yet, but it meant something. He had shown it to Constance that night. She had read it by the light of the flashlight they had bought at the gas station, her lips moving silently, her fingers tracing the words. "Freddie," she had said, "this is the land, I know. This is the church. This is the graveyard. This is everything. I know." She had looked up at him, and for the first time in weeks there had been something in her eyes that was not exhaustion. "We own this. We might own this. We own this. He had not argued. He had not wanted to argue. He had wanted to believe. Now, 11 days later, Frederick sits in the second row of the church and holds the deed in his hands. The paper is yellowed, the ink faded, but the words are still legible. He has read them so many times that he has memorized them. The aforementioned property shall revert to the original members of the congregation, their heirs and assigns, should the property cease to be used for regular worship services by the denomination. Regular worship services. There had been no regular worship services here for 3 years. The denomination had abandoned the building. The property had reverted. Frederick had called a lawyer. The lawyer had been skeptical, then interested, then enthusiastic. This is an ironclad reverter clause, the lawyer had said. If the document is authentic, you have a strong claim to the property. The document was authentic. Frederick knew this the way he knew the weight of his Bible, the way he knew the sound of Constance's breathing in the dark. It was real. It was true. And it was their only hope. But hope, Frederick had learned, was a slow thing. The lawyer had filed the paperwork, but the denomination would fight it. There would be hearings, motions, appeals. It could take months, years. And in the meantime, Frederick and Constance were sleeping on a pew cushion and eating crackers. The Tuesday in November arrives like any other day. The sun rises. Frederick makes coffee. Constance hums. They eat crackers. They pray. But there is something different about this Tuesday. Frederick feels it in his bones, the same way he used to feel the shift in weather before a storm. There is a weight in the air, a tension, a waiting. He is at the window, looking out at the graveyard, when the car pulls up. It is a black SUV, clean and expensive, the kind of car that belongs to people who have never had to count crackers. The door opens, and Michael steps out. Frederick's son is wearing a wool coat that probably cost more than Frederick's entire wardrobe. He is holding a briefcase. He is not smiling. Dad, Michael. We need to talk. Frederick does not step aside to let him in. He stands in the doorway of the church, blocking the entrance. Behind him, Constance has stopped humming. Talk, Frederick says. Michael shifts his weight. He is uncomfortable. He should be uncomfortable. The denomination called me. They said you're claiming ownership of this building. I'm not claiming. I own it. Dad, you can't own a church. I own this one. The deed says so. Michael's jaw tightens. The deed is probably not valid. It's over 100 years old. The denomination has lawyers, good ones. They're going to fight this. Let them fight. You can't afford to fight them. I can't afford not to. Michael takes a step forward. Frederick does not move. Dad, listen to me. They're willing to offer you a settlement. $5,000. You sign over any claim to the property, and they'll give you $5,000 and help you find senior housing. $5,000. It is more money than Frederick has seen in months. It is enough to rent a room for a year, maybe 2. It is enough to buy medication, food, warmth. It is also nothing. It is the price of giving up. No, Frederick says. Dad, I said no. Michael's face reddens. You're being stubborn. You're 77 years old. You're sleeping on a pew in a church with no heat. Mom is 74. She has arthritis. Do you think this is what she deserves? This is what you want for her? Frederick feels the words like a blow. He looks at Constance, who has not moved from her seat in the second row. She is watching him with calm eyes, the same eyes she has had for 43 years, the eyes that have seen him at his best and his worst and have never wavered. Constance deserves a home, Frederick says. She had one in the parsonage. The denomination took it. Now they want to take this too. The denomination didn't take the parsonage. You retired. That's how it works. I served that church for 43 years. I baptized your children. I buried your grandparents. I married you and your wife. And they gave me 6 weeks and a pamphlet. Michael looks away. He is not looking at his father. He is looking at the SUV, at the road, at anything but the old man in the doorway. $5,000 is the best offer, he says. Take it. No. Dad. No. Michael stands there for a long moment. The wind blows through the bare trees in the graveyard. The Good Shepherd window catches the light and throws it across the floor in a wash of blue and gold. I'm not going to watch you destroy yourself, Michael says. If you don't take the offer, they're going to take you to court. They're going to bury you in paperwork. You'll lose everything. I already lost everything. You still have Mom. You still have your health. You still have a chance to walk away from this with something. Frederick does not answer. He does not need to answer. The silence is louder than anything he could say. Michael turns and walks back to the SUV. He does not look back. The door closes. The engine starts. The car pulls away. Frederick watches it go. When it is out of sight, he closes the church door and walks back to Constance. She reaches out and takes his hand. You did the right thing, she says. I don't know what the right thing is anymore. The right thing is not giving up. He looks at her hands curved like they are holding a hymnal, at her face lined with age and patience and love, at her eyes, which have not wavered. Okay, he says, we don't give up. That night, the cold is worse. The furnace, which had been running on fumes and prayer, finally gives out. The temperature drops. Frederick wraps Constance in both of their coats and holds her close on the pew cushion. He does not sleep. He lies awake, listening to the wind, watching his breath form clouds in the dark. At 2:14 a.m., he gets up. His hip screams. His back aches. His hands are stiff with cold. He walks to the altar where the deed is stored in his Bible, wrapped in oilcloth, safe. He takes it out. He reads it again by the light of the flashlight, the words familiar as scripture. Their heirs and assigns, heirs and assigns. That means his children. That means Michael. That means Sarah and David too. The property, if he wins, will belong to them eventually. They will inherit it. They will sell it. They will profit from the thing he fought for while they stood by and watched him freeze. Frederick puts the deed back. He does not know what he feels. Anger? Sadness? Something in between? He walks to the window and looks out at the graveyard. The headstones are white in the moonlight. Mary Tilson, Henry Graves, Eleanor Vance. They are all here, all the people he buried, all the people he prayed over, all the people who trusted him to guide them through the valley of the shadow. He is in the valley now. He has been in the valley for weeks, and he is beginning to wonder if he will ever find his way out. The next morning, Constance does not wake up when the sun rises. She does not stir when Frederick makes coffee. She does not hum. Frederick touches her face. It is cold. Her breathing is shallow, too shallow, each breath a struggle. Constance. She does not respond. Constance. Her eyes flutter open. She looks at him, and for a moment she does not seem to recognize him. Then she does. Freddie. I'm here. I'm tired. I know. I'm so tired. He holds her. He holds her for a long time, feeling her chest rise and fall, feeling the life in her like a flame that is flickering, and he is afraid. We need to get you to a doctor, he says. There's no money. I'll find money. There's no money, Freddie. He does not answer. He cannot answer. She is right. There is no money. There is no car. There is no phone that works. There is nothing but a church with no heat and a deed that might not be worth the paper it is printed on. He holds her. He prays. He does not know if God is listening. The lawyer calls on the third day. Frederick has to walk to the gas station to use the payphone because his cell phone was disconnected 2 weeks ago. The walk is 2 miles each way, and his hip is worse now, and the cold has settled into his bones like a tenant who refuses to leave. Mr. March, the lawyer says, good news. The judge has granted an emergency hearing. We're scheduled for next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. You need to be there. Bring the original deed. Bring your membership card. Bring anything else that establishes your connection to the congregation. I'll be there. One more thing. The denomination's legal team has filed a motion to dismiss. They're arguing that the reverter clause is unenforceable because the property was transferred to the denomination in 1963 before the clause was triggered. Frederick closes his eyes. Can they do that? They can try. But I've reviewed the original transfer document, and the reverter clause was explicitly preserved. They knew about it. They accepted it. Then why are they fighting? Because they don't want to lose the property. It's worth more than the building. The land alone is valuable. Valuable. Frederick thinks about the land, the graveyard, the headstones, the dead who trusted him. They can't sell the graveyard, he says. They can try. But that's a separate legal issue. Right now, we need to focus on the hearing. Frederick hangs up. He walks back to the church. The wind is cold, and his hip is screaming, and he is so tired that he can barely put one foot in front of the other. When he gets back, Constance is sitting up. She has made tea. She is humming. Good news, she asks. Maybe. That's good enough. He sits down beside her. She hands him a cup of tea. It is hot, and it is real, and it is something. Tuesday, he says. The hearing is Tuesday. We'll be ready. How? She smiles. It is a small smile, but it is real. We always are. The days pass. Frederick and Constance fall into a routine: morning coffee, crackers for breakfast, a walk around the graveyard to keep their blood moving, afternoon prayers, canned soup for dinner, evening hymns sung softly in the dark, Constance's voice thin but steady. They do not talk about the hearing. They do not talk about what will happen if they lose. They do not talk about the money or the cold or the hunger that gnaws at them both. They talk about the past, about their wedding day, which was warm and golden and full of laughter. About the birth of their children, each one a miracle, each one a joy. About the funerals Constance played for, the hymns she chose, the families she comforted with her music. The organ at St. Mark's was the best, she says one night. It had this sound, this deep, resonant sound, like the voice of God, I remember. I played Amazing Grace on it. For Eleanor's funeral, she loved that hymn. She did. Do you think she's in heaven? I don't know, Frederick says. I hope so. I know so. He looks at her. Her face is lit by the flashlight, her eyes bright, her mouth curved in a smile. How do you know? Because I played Amazing Grace for her. And if that doesn't get you into heaven, nothing will. He laughs. It is the first time he has laughed in weeks. It feels strange and good and terrible. Constance, he says, yes, I love you. I know, I don't say it enough. You say it every day, in the way you look at me, in the way you hold me, in the way you walk 2 miles to make a phone call. He reaches out and takes her hand. Her fingers are cold, but they curl around his, familiar as breathing. We're going to make it, she says. I don't know how, but we're going to make it. Promise? I promise. The Tuesday of the hearing arrives. Frederick wakes before dawn. His hip is worse, his back is worse, everything is worse. But he gets up because he has to. Constance is already awake. She has made coffee. She has laid out their clothes clean enough, warm enough, the best they have. They dress in silence. Frederick puts on his suit, the one he wore for funerals, the one that is frayed at the cuffs and shiny at the knees. Constance puts on her dress, the one she wore for Easter services, the one that has been mended so many times that it is more thread than fabric. Frederick picks up his Bible. He takes out the membership card, the one from 1964, the one that proves he was a member of the congregation. He takes out the deed, wrapped in oilcloth, precious as gold. Ready? He asks. Ready. They leave the church. The sun is rising, painting the Good Shepherd window in blue and gold. Frederick does not look back. He is afraid that if he looks back, he will not be able to leave. The walk to the courthouse is 3 miles. They walk slowly, because Constance's arthritis is bad, because Frederick's hip is worse, because they are old and tired and hungry. They do not talk. They do not have the energy to talk. They walk, and they breathe, and they hope. The courthouse is warm. Frederick feels the heat like a physical shock, a relief so intense that it almost hurts. He stands in the lobby, letting the warmth seep into his bones, not wanting to move. Mr. March, the lawyer, is there. He is young, maybe 30, with a sharp suit and sharp eyes. He shakes Frederick's hand. Are you ready? Yes, good. The judge is ready. Let's go. They walk into the courtroom. It is small, paneled in wood, with a high ceiling and a flag in the corner. The judge is an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She looks at Frederick, and for a moment, he thinks he sees something like sympathy in her face. On the other side of the room, the denomination's lawyers are sitting. They are 3 of them, all in expensive suits, all with laptops and briefcases and the easy confidence of people who have never had to count crackers. The hearing begins. The denomination's lawyer speaks first. He argues that the reverter clause is unenforceable. He argues that the transfer in 1963 invalidated it. He argues that Frederick has no standing, no claim, no right. Frederick's lawyer speaks. He argues that the reverter clause was explicitly preserved. He produces documents, transfers, letters. He argues that Frederick is an original member, that he has the card to prove it, that the deed is valid. The judge listens. She asks questions. She takes notes. She does not reveal what she is thinking. After 2 hours, she calls a recess. I will issue my ruling at 2 o'clock this afternoon, she says. Be back in this courtroom at that time. Frederick nods. He stands. He walks out of the courtroom with Constance and the lawyer. 2 hours, the lawyer says. We wait. Where? Frederick asks. There's a coffee shop across the street. I'll buy you lunch. Frederick wants to refuse. He does not want charity. But he is hungry, and Constance is hungry, and the lawyer is already walking. They go to the coffee shop. The lawyer buys them sandwiches and coffee. Constance eats slowly, savoring every bite. Frederick eats quickly, not tasting anything. What do you think? He asks the lawyer. I think we have a strong case. The documents are clear. The clause was preserved. You have standing. But judges are unpredictable. And the denomination has resources we don't. What happens if we lose? The lawyer hesitates. We appeal. But appeals take time. And money. Money. Always money. We won't lose, Constance says. Frederick looks at her. She is calm. She is eating her sandwich like she has all the time in the world. How do you know? He asks. Because I prayed. Prayer doesn't always work. It works when it's supposed to. He wants to argue. He wants to tell her that prayer has not worked for weeks, that they are sleeping on a pew and eating crackers and freezing in the dark. But he looks at her face, at the peace in her eyes, and he cannot say anything. He takes her hand, he holds it. He waits. At 2 o'clock, they return to the courtroom. The judge is already there. She looks at them, and Frederick tries to read her face, but he cannot. I have reached a decision, she says. Frederick holds his breath. Constance squeezes his hand. The plaintiff, Frederick March, has presented sufficient evidence to establish his standing as an original member of the congregation. The deed from 1901, including the reverter clause, is valid and enforceable. The property known as the First Congregational Church of Oak Hill is hereby awarded to Frederick March, his heirs and assigns. Frederick does not hear the rest. The words blur together. His heart is pounding. His hands are shaking. He looks at Constance. She is crying. She is smiling. She is crying and smiling at the same time. "We won," she says. "We won." The denomination's lawyers are packing up their briefcases. They do not look at Frederick. They do not congratulate him. They leave without a word. Frederick's lawyer is shaking his hand. "Congratulations, Mr. March. You did it. Thank you. One thing, the denomination may appeal, but for now the property is yours. Yours." Frederick turns the word over in his mind. Yours. It has been so long since anything was his. They walk back to the church. The sun is setting, painting the sky in orange and pink. The Good Shepherd window catches the light and throws it across the floor. Frederick stands in the doorway. He looks at the pews, the altar, the pulpit. He looks at the furnace, dead and cold. He looks at the window, beautiful and broken. "This is ours," he says. "Ours, cars," Constance repeats. "What do we do with it?" She smiles. "We live in it. Without heat, without running water? We'll figure it out." He looks at her. She is standing in the light from the window, her hair silver, her face lined, her eyes bright. "Constance," he says, "I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. So what do we do?" She walks to him. She takes his hands. Her fingers are cold, but they are strong. "We start," she says. "We start with what we have. We start with each other. We start with this church and this land and this life. We start." He looks at her. He looks at the church. He looks at the graveyard where the dead are waiting. "Okay," he says. "We start." That night they sleep in the church again. But this time it is different. This time the cold is not a threat. This time the darkness is not a fear. This time they are home. Frederick lies awake, listening to Constance breathe. She is asleep, her hand in his, her face peaceful. He thinks about the deed. He thinks about the hearing. He thinks about Michael, who did not come, who did not call, who did not even wish them luck. He thinks about the future. There will be challenges. There will be repairs. There will be battles with the denomination, with the county, with the cold and the dark. But there will also be this church, this land, this woman beside him. He closes his eyes. He prays. He does not know if God is listening. But for the first time in weeks, he does not care. He is home. The next morning, Frederick wakes to the sound of knocking. He sits up. Constance stirs beside him. The knocking comes again, insistent, urgent. "Who is it?" Constance asks. "I don't know." He stands. His hip is better today, or maybe he is just used to the pain. He walks to the door and opens it. There is a man standing on the step. He is older, maybe 70, with white hair and a kind face. He is holding a toolbox. "Mr. March?" "I'm Harold Vance, Eleanor's grandson." Frederick stares at him. Eleanor Vance, who outlived 3 husbands. Eleanor Vance, who lived in the county home. Eleanor Vance, who understood. "I heard what happened," Harold says. "I heard you won the church." "I did. I also heard the furnace is out." "It is." Harold holds up the toolbox. "I'm a retired plumber. I thought I might take a look." Frederick does not know what to say. He looks at the toolbox, at Harold's face, at the kindness in his eyes. "Why?" he asks. Harold smiles. "Eleanor always said you were a good man. She said you visited her every week in the home. She said you brought her communion and prayed with her and held her hand when she was afraid." "I did. She was my grandmother. I loved her. And I never got to thank you for what you did." Frederick feels something break inside him, something he has been holding together for weeks, months, years. He feels it crack and shatter and fall away. "Thank you," he says. "You don't have to thank me. Just let me fix your furnace." Frederick steps aside. Harold walks into the church. He sets down his toolbox and starts inspecting the furnace. Constance comes up beside Frederick. She takes his hand. "Who is that?" she asks. "A friend. I didn't know we had friends." "Neither did I." Harold works for 3 hours. He replaces a valve, cleans the burner, adjusts the pilot light. When he is done, the furnace kicks on with a rumble that sounds like the voice of God. "There," he says. "That should hold for a while, but you'll need a new one eventually." "Thank you," Frederick says. "How much do I owe you?" Harold waves a hand. "Nothing. Consider it a housewarming gift." "Harold, Mr. March, my grandmother lived in a county home because her grandson sold her house out from under her. I have regretted that every day for 15 years. Let me do this, please." Frederick nods. He cannot speak. Harold packs up his tools. He shakes Frederick's hand. If you need anything else, call me. I'm in the book. He leaves. The door closes. The furnace hums. Frederick stands in the middle of the church, feeling the heat rise around him. Constance is beside him, her hand in his. We have heat, she says. We have heat. We need a bed. We need a bed and food and water. And we'll figure it out. She smiles. I know. The denomination decides not to appeal. The lawyer calls with the news. They've accepted the ruling, he says. The property is yours, free and clear. Frederick does not know what to say. He has been preparing for a fight. He has been steeling himself for months of legal battles, of uncertainty, of fear. They just gave up, essentially. They didn't want the publicity. Church evicting an elderly pastor doesn't look good. Frederick laughs. It is a strange sound, rusty from disuse. Thank you, he says. Don't thank me. You did the work. I just filed the paperwork. No. Thank you for believing me. The lawyer is quiet for a moment. I believe in the law, Mr. March, and the law was on your side. Still, thank you. You're welcome. Take care of yourself. And take care of that church. I will. He hangs up. He walks back to Constance, who is sitting in the second row, humming. It's over, he says. Over? They're not appealing. The church is ours. She looks up at him. Her eyes are bright. Ours, ours. She stands. She walks to him. She wraps her arms around him and holds him tight. We did it, she says. We did it. But there is something Frederick has not told her. Something he has been carrying like a stone in his pocket. The morning after the hearing, he had gone back to the courthouse. He had asked to see the original deed, the one from 1901, the one that had been filed with the county. The clerk had brought it to him. He had opened it, expecting to see the same words he had memorized. But there was something else, something he had not noticed before. At the bottom of the deed, in handwriting so small that it was almost invisible, there was a clause. A clause that said the property would revert to the original congregation members only if the property was used for religious purposes for at least 100 years. Frederick had done the math. The church was built in 1892. The deed was signed in 1901. 100 years from 1901 was 2001. The church had been used for religious purposes until 2019. That was 18 years. The clause was not triggered. Frederick had stood in the courthouse, holding the deed, feeling the world tilt beneath him. The church was not his. The property was not his. The judge had made a mistake. He had not told anyone. He had not told Constance. He had not told the lawyer. He had not told Frederick. Had not told anyone. He had not told Constance. He had not told the lawyer. He had not told Harold. He had folded the deed, handed it back to the clerk, and walked out of the courthouse with the secret burning in his chest. He tells himself it does not matter. The judge ruled. The denomination surrendered. The church is theirs in practice, if not in technicality. The clause is a ghost, a dead letter, a technicality that no one will ever discover. But the stone in his pocket grows heavier each day. The first sign comes in the mail. A thick envelope, cream-colored, return address embossed in gold. Elder William Thorne, presiding elder Diocese of the Upper Valley. Frederick opens it with trembling hands. Inside is a single sheet of paper, typed in a formal, measured font. Dear Mr. March, has come to our attention that the recent court ruling regarding the property at 1423 Maple Street may have been issued in error. We have retained counsel to review the original deed, and we believe there are grounds for a motion to vacate the judgment. We will be filing this motion within the week. We trust you will cooperate fully with the court's process. In Christ, Elder William Thorne. Frederick reads it 3 times. His hands are shaking. His breath comes shallow and fast. He does not tell Constance. He cannot. He watches her that evening as she boils water for tea, humming a hymn he does not recognize. She is happy. For the first time in months, she is happy. He cannot take that from her. He hides the letter in his coat pocket. He does not sleep that night. The motion is filed. The hearing is set for 3 weeks out. Frederick goes to the courthouse alone. He does not tell Constance. He tells her he is going to the hardware store for supplies. She kisses him on the cheek and says she will start dinner. He stands in the hallway of the courthouse, waiting for his name to be called. The denomination's lawyers are there, 3 of them, in expensive suits, carrying leather briefcases. They do not look at him. The judge is the same one who ruled in Frederick's favor before. She looks tired. She looks at Frederick with something like pity. Mr. March, she says, I understand the denomination has brought a motion to vacate based on new evidence. Yes, Your Honor. I have reviewed the deed in question. She pauses. There is indeed a clause that was not to my attention during the original hearing. A reversion clause triggered after 100 years of religious use. My attorney, your attorney is not here today, Mr. March. Do you have representation? Frederick looks around the courtroom. The denomination's lawyers are smirking. The clerk is watching him with blank eyes. No, Your Honor. I did not know. I see. The judge folds her hands. Mr. March, I have no choice. The clause is valid. The property must revert to the original congregation members as represented by the Diocese of the Upper Valley. But, I am sorry. The motion to vacate is granted. The property is no longer yours. The gavel falls. The sound echoes in the empty room. Frederick stands. He does not feel his legs. He does not feel his hands. He does not feel anything except the stone in his pocket, now a boulder, crushing him from the inside. He does not go home. He walks for hours through the streets of the town, past the church, past the hardware store, past the diner where he used to eat breakfast. He walks until his feet ache and his legs wobble. He ends up at the river. He sits on a bench. He watches the water move past, dark and indifferent. He has lost everything, the church, the house, the life he built, and he has lied to Constance. He has hidden the truth from her, and now she will lose everything too. He puts his face in his hands. He does not cry. He is too empty for tears. He is still sitting there when the sun goes down. The streetlights flicker on, the river turns black. A car pulls up behind him. The door opens. Footsteps on gravel. Frederick. He knows the voice. He does not look up. Harold. Harold sits down beside him. He is wearing his work boots and a flannel shirt. He smells like sawdust and coffee. I heard, Harold says, about the hearing. How? Travels fast in a small town. Harold pauses. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I knew about the clause. I saw it in the deed. I didn't tell anyone. Harold is quiet for a long moment. Why not? I don't know. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. I thought we had one. I didn't want to lose that. But you did, yes. Frederick's voice cracks. I did. They sit in silence. The river moves past. A train whistles in the distance. I have an idea, Harold says. I don't want any more ideas. This isn't legal. This isn't about the courts. Then what is it? Harold turns to him. His face is serious. The denomination's lawyer, William Thorne. I know him. Everyone knows him. I know him differently. Harold's voice drops. He has a son who was arrested for drug possession 5 years ago. The charges were dropped. No one knows why. Frederick looks at him. What are you saying? I'm saying that William Thorne has secrets. And I know how to find them. Harold, I'm not suggesting anything illegal. I'm suggesting we find out the truth, the real truth, about why Thorne is so desperate to get that church back. Because it's valuable. It's not that valuable. It's an old building in a dying town. There's something else. Frederick stares at him. How do you know this? I've been doing my own research. Ever since you told me about the church, I've been digging. And I found something. Harold pulls a folded piece of paper from his pocket. There's a meeting. Tomorrow night. At the denomination's headquarters, Thorne is meeting with someone. A buyer, a developer. They want to tear down the church and build condos. Frederick feels the world tilt again. Condos, luxury condos, river views. The town council has already approved the zoning. They just need the property. But the denomination, they're a church. They're supposed to do a lot of things. Harold's voice is bitter, but money talks, and Thorne is listening. The next night, Frederick and Harold sit in Harold's truck, parked across the street from the denomination's headquarters. It is a brick building, plain and unassuming. The lights are on in the second-floor conference room. Are you sure about this? Frederick asks. No, Harold says. But I'm sure that something is wrong. They watch. At 8 o'clock, a black sedan pulls up. A man in a suit gets out. He is carrying a briefcase. That's him, Harold says. That's the developer. They watch as the man walks into the building. The lights in the conference room flicker. Now what? Frederick asks. Now we wait. They wait for 2 hours. The lights go out. The developer leaves. William Thorne follows him out, shaking his hand. Harold starts the truck. Follow them. Follow them? Harold, just do it. Frederick follows the black sedan through the town, past the church, past the river, to a gated community on the outskirts. The sedan pulls into a driveway. The developer gets out and walks into a house. That's his house, Harold says. I looked it up. He bought it last year. Paid cash. How do you know that? Public records. Harold pulls out his phone. And I know something else. That house is owned by a shell company. A shell company that also owns the land next to the church. Frederick's heart is pounding. What are you saying? I'm saying that this whole thing is a setup. The developer wants the church. Thorne wants the money. They've been planning this for months. But the clause is real. But Thorne knew about it. He's been sitting on it, waiting for the right moment. Harold puts the phone away. He's not a pastor. He's a businessman. They drive back to town in silence. Frederick's mind is racing. He has been played, he has been manipulated, and he has lost everything because of it. I need to tell Constance, he says. Not yet, Harold says. Not until we have proof. How do we get proof? Harold looks at him. We go to the newspaper. The town newspaper is a small operation run by a woman named Martha Chen. She has been the editor for 30 years. She knows everyone and everything. Frederick and Harold sit in her office the next morning. She listens to their story, her face unreadable. You're telling me that William Thorne is colluding with a developer to steal a church, she asks. I'm telling you that the clause was hidden, that Thorne knew about it, and that he's been planning this for years. Martha leans back in her chair. That's a serious accusation. I have evidence, Harold says. He pulls out a folder. Bank, records, shell company documents. Emails. Martha picks up the folder. She flips through it, her eyes widen. Where did you get this? I have sources. Harold, I have sources. And they're reliable. Martha looks at Frederick. Do you know what you're doing? No, Frederick says. But I know that I can't let this stand. Not after everything we've been through. Martha is quiet for a long moment. Then she nods. I'll run the story. But I need to verify everything first. Take your time, Harold says. We're not going anywhere. The story breaks 3 days later. It is front-page news. Church elder accused of collusion and property dispute. Frederick reads it in the kitchen, his hands shaking. Constance is beside him, reading over his shoulder. Is this true? She asks. I think so. Why didn't you tell me? He looks at her. He sees the hurt in her eyes, the betrayal. I was trying to protect you, he says. You were trying to protect yourself. She is right. He knows she is right. I'm sorry, he says. She does not answer. She walks out of the kitchen. The fallout is swift. The denomination launches an investigation. William Thorne is suspended pending the results. The developer pulls out of the deal. The judge calls a new hearing. This time, Frederick is prepared. He has a lawyer. He has evidence. He has the truth. The hearing is brief. The judge rules that the clause was improperly concealed. The original ruling stands. The church is Frederick's. But the victory feels hollow. Constance is still not speaking to him. The church is empty. The heat is on, but the house is cold. The denomination's investigation concludes. William Thorne is removed from his position. He loses his pension. He loses his reputation. He loses everything. Frederick hears the news from Harold. He's ruined, Harold says. No one will hire him. No one will talk to him. He's done. Frederick does not feel satisfaction. He feels tired. He says, That's it. Good, good. What else is there? Harold shrugs. I don't know. Justice maybe. Justice doesn't fix anything. Frederick looks out the window. It just makes the pain stop hurting for a little while. The church is quiet now. The congregation is gone. The pews are empty. The windows are dark. Frederick sits in the front row alone. He has been sitting here for hours, watching the dust motes float in the afternoon light. The door opens. Footsteps on the hardwood floor. Frederick. It is Constance. She sits down beside him. I'm sorry, she says. You don't have to apologize. I do. I was angry. But I understand why you did what you did. Doesn't make it right, no. But it makes it human. They sit together in the silence. The furnace hums. The light shifts. What now? She asks. I don't know. We could start over. Here, or somewhere else. It doesn't matter. He takes her hand. I don't want to start over. I want to stay. Then we stay. They begin again. Slowly, painfully, they clean the church. They fix the windows. They paint the walls. Harold comes by to help. He brings his tools and his coffee and his quiet presence. Martha comes by with a photographer from the newspaper. She writes a follow-up story. Small church, big victory. The town starts to notice. People stop by to offer help. Some bring food. Some bring money. Some bring their children. The church begins to fill again, not with the old congregation, but with new faces, young faces. Faces that have never been inside a church before. Frederick preaches on Sundays. He talks about forgiveness. He talks about grace. He talks about starting over. Constance sits in the front row. She hums the hymns she remembers from her childhood. One evening, Frederick finds a letter in the mailbox. It is addressed to him in handwriting he does not recognize. The return address is a post office box in another state. He opens it. Inside is a single sheet of paper. Dear Mr. March, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I am sorry. I was wrong. I was greedy. I let money and power corrupt me. I have lost everything, my job, my family, my home. I am living in a motel room. I have no idea what I am going to do next. I know that doesn't make up for what I did. But I needed to say it. I hope you find peace. Sincerely, William Thorne. Frederick reads the letter twice. He folds it carefully and puts it in his pocket. He does not show it to Constance. He does not tell Harold. He carries it with him for a week, feeling the weight of it, the shape of it against his chest. He does not write back. The church survives. The town survives. Frederick and Constance survive. They build a life in the old building. They sleep in the basement. They cook in the kitchen. They pray in the sanctuary. It is not the life Frederick imagined. It is not the life he wanted. But it is his, and he is grateful. One morning, Frederick wakes early. The sun is not yet up. The church is dark and quiet. He walks to the sanctuary. He sits in the front row. He looks at the altar, the cross, the stained glass. He reaches into his pocket. He pulls out the letter from William Thorne. He reads it one more time. Then he folds it carefully and places it on the altar. He does not light a candle. He does not say a prayer. He just leaves it there, a confession, a penance, a ghost. He walks back to the basement. Constance is still sleeping. He lies down beside her. He closes his eyes. In the kitchen, a small ceramic bowl sits on the counter. It is chipped. It is cracked. It is the bowl Frederick's mother used to mix bread dough 50 years ago. He found it in the church attic, wrapped in newspaper, buried under boxes of old hymnals. He does not know how it got there. He does not know who put it there, but it is his now. He uses it every morning, mixing flour and water and yeast, making bread for the day. The bowl is old. The bowl is broken. But it still holds. Frederick stands in the kitchen, his hands in the dough, the sun rising through the window. He is not sure what comes next.